It has been a divisive, chaotic week in Trump's America. With the opening of his cruel migrant detention center, the administration has dubbed Alligator Alcatraz, you see that sign there, and the passage of the massively unpopular so-called Big Beautiful Bill, as well as his growing list of political targets he's threatening. People who were once buddies or members of Congress who dared to defy him, news organizations. It's no wonder that most Americans, and more than half of Republicans even, say democracy is at risk. That's according to a new poll. Trump took the divisiveness a step further a few days ago when he had this message for Democrats who didn't support his domestic policy bill.
Not one Democrat voted for us, and I think we use it in the campaign that's coming up, the midterms, because we got to beat them. But all of the things that we've given, and they wouldn't vote only because they hate Trump. But I hate them too, you know that? So it's sort of, I really do, I hate them. I cannot stand them because I really believe they hate our country.
That was billed as a bipartisan event, by the way. Joining us now, presidential historian and professor of history at Rice University, Douglas Brinkley. Douglas, thank you so much for coming on. You know, we're 249 years into this American experiment. I'm thinking about George Washington and what he would have thought had he heard, you know, one of his successors to the presidency say what he just said. I'm curious what you think George Washington or the other founding fathers would think about a president saying about the other political party, I hate them.
You know, everybody should pull up George Washington's Rules of Civility. When he was 14 years old, Washington wrote them in a beautiful handwriting, these 110 precepts to live by. What you just heard Donald Trump said is the exact opposite of what Washington thought democracy should be, where you had to have a civility and a sense of warmth, even of people you didn't agree with. So it's a downward slide since Washington when it comes to the the idea of having a good feel for your opposition, or at least have some a proper way to handle people that you disagree with.
You know, Doug, I've been asking people all year this question since we're coming up to the 250th anniversary of America next year, and it's this. If the founders came back today, would they think they got it right or they got it wrong?
Well, I think a lot of them, I mean, just imagine somebody like Benjamin Franklin, who was an inventor, looking at all the great things our country's invented. To imagine a mind like Franklin's fascination with the iPhone. But when it comes to the Constitution and how we've gone, they'd be impressed that we made it to 249, but I think also be in deeply deep despair because of what we're seeing, the unraveling of our institutions and the dignity of the executive branch and a Congress that isn't doing its job properly. They'd be shocked that the People's House Congress has such a low public opinion rating, and that how many people are in polling are saying, look, I'm not happy with this United States. I don't believe our better days are coming. It might be the Democrats' smartest move right now would be to get together and every single one, whatever caucus you're in, wear an American flag pin like the conservatives did a decade ago. Just come in one day and we are the party of the American flag because we are here for democracy, and roll with that kind of motif. Because otherwise you're just going to see those poll numbers, in the next year or so have Democrats with 25%. And that, and that creates a low morale, and that can translate into low voter turnout. So why don't they reclaim the American flag from the Republican Party?
I wonder what the founding fathers would think. Those slave owning ones about us on this show also, but we're going to move on from that. That's a different show. That's a different show. Doug, one of the things that we've seen in a Gallup poll, they've been doing this for years, is that every generation is a little bit less patriotic than the one before. What are we doing wrong in this country when only 4 in 10 of Gen Zers have a high level of pride in this country? Or are they seeing something that the generations before them hadn't seen?
No, the big mistake we've made is not allowing or making mandatory civics in middle
Yes.
school, high school, teaching what is U.S. government, teaching public service. We don't have military conscription now, and we're not as imaginative as we used to be with things like the Civilian Conservation Corps of Tree Planting Army or the Peace Corps to go around the world and help people. And so there's just a lot of blasé, lackadaisical attitude, like, America's capitalist. It's about myself. I better go make some money. And I'm not really worried about the larger public good. And that way, we've lost some of the town hall civic spirit we need. And it all begins in school. Money has to go to education. Teachers need to be paid more. It's all about teaching. And Eisenhower knew this. It's one reason Ike was a fiscal conservative, so we're not cutting education. That's going to be the cornerstone of our democracy, is teaching young people about democracy. And alas, the STEM revolution came, and then the IT revolution, and now things like humanities or civics, government, geography, humanities in general are in disarray at colleges and universities and aren't taught in high school.
With civics classes, I remember taking civics in grade school, and we learned about all the political parties. If civics were taught today, we'd be talking about Democrats and Republicans. But Elon Musk, over the weekend, announced a new party. He did this on his social media platform X yesterday. By a 2-to-1 factor, by a factor of 2 to 1, you want a new political party, and you shall have it. When it comes to bankrupting our country with waste and graft, we live in a one-party system, not a democracy. Today, the America Party is formed to give you back your freedom. Couple questions here. One, we don't know if he's filed the necessary paperwork to make this America Party official.
It's not as easy as just throwing it on social.
Correct. But the question here is, there are third parties in this country, but they can't get off the ground compared to Democrats and Republicans. How viable do you think a political party created and formed by the world's richest person, how viable is that in the United States? Does he even have a chance?
I don't really think he has much of a chance to win with the America Party. I mean, he went up to Wisconsin and threw, millions, tens of millions of dollars around, put his cheese head on, and people said, "Get out of the state. You're driving us crazy." The more you see Musk, the more to not like him. The more you hear him on television, the more you turn off. He's kind of become a poisonous tabloid fodder. But beyond that aspect, look, he can do damage if he really wants to fund a disruptive third party, like the big word of the Silicon Valley. He can do it. I mean, Ross Perot in 1992, a billionaire also, got 19% of the vote. Really a terrible candidate whose big message was anti-NAFTA, sucking sound of your jobs you hear going to Mexico. And he got 19%. Well, if you start grabbing something like 19%, if you're Elon Musk, then you're kind of deciding who's going to be the next president. And so I think if I were the MAGA people, I'd be very concerned about this hemorrhage in the Republican Party, between the GOP and this new America Party. That's what did in the Republican Party early in the 20th century. Theodore Roosevelt came back and created the Bull Moose Party and destroyed the Republican Party and gave the Democrat Woodrow Wilson the presidency. Something like that could happen if Musk is operating, wants to spend $500 million, I should say, $500 million on a revenge against Donald Trump. He can do some damage.
Douglas Brinkley, thank you very much for coming to the weekend.
Thank both of you